David Rodriguez never thought his Tuesday morning would change his entire life. As a public defender in downtown Chicago, he was used to strange cases. But nothing could have prepared him for what walked into his office that cold February day. The girl couldn't have been more than 8 years old. She sat in the courthouse holding cell, her small hands folded neatly in her lap. But there was something different about her. Her eyes were the most unusual shade of violet David had ever seen, like looking into deep purple crystals. When she looked at him, it felt like she could see right through to his soul. "Hello," David said gently, crouching down to her level. "I'm your lawyer. Can you tell me your name?" The girl tilted her head, studying him with those remarkable eyes. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear, mixing English words with sounds he'd never heard before. "Zara is my name. You have kind heart." David felt a strange warmth in his chest. In 15 years of defending clients, he never had someone comment on his heart. Most people barely looked at him twice. "How do you know that, Zara?" She smiled, an expression that seemed far too wise for someone her age. "I can feel it, like music inside you. Sad music, but good music." The case file was practically empty. Police had found Zara wandering downtown 3 days ago, near where witnesses reported seeing a bright flash in the sky. No missing person reports matched her description. No family had come forward. She had no identification, no belongings except the strange silver bracelet on her wrist that seemed to shimmer with its own light. "Where are your parents, sweetheart?" David asked. Zara's expression grew sad. She spoke in that mix of languages again, then switched to English. "Gone to the stars. Bad people hurt them." David's heart ached for her. He'd seen too many kids in the system, too many children who lost everything. But there was something special about Zara that he couldn't explain. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, like she could see past all his failures and disappointments. Maybe it was how she didn't seem afraid, even though she was completely alone. Over the next 2 days, David found himself spending more time with Zara than any case required. She was incredibly smart, picking up new English words quickly and asking thoughtful questions about everything around her. She had a habit of knowing things she shouldn't know, like when Judge Thompson would call a recess or when the coffee machine in the break room was about to run out. "How did you know the judge was going to stop early today?" David asked after one hearing. Zara shrugged. "His stomach hurts. He thinks about lunch." "I can feel these things." The strangest part was how people reacted to her. Bailiff Johnson, who'd had chronic back pain for years, claimed it completely disappeared after Zara accidentally bumped into him. The usually grumpy court clerk started bringing extra cookies from home. Even Judge Thompson, known for his stern demeanor, seemed to soften whenever Zara was in the room. David couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. Throughout the week, he noticed the same well-dressed strangers appearing around the courthouse. They wore expensive suits and moved with a quiet confidence that made David's lawyer instincts tingle. They never approached, just observed from a distance with intense interest. The custody hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. David had managed to arrange temporary placement with a good foster family, though his heart broke thinking about saying goodbye to Zara. She'd become like a little sister to him in just a few days, filling a loneliness he hadn't even realized. He carried. Judge Thompson reviewed the paperwork with his usual thoroughness. Given the circumstances and lack of family identification, the court will place the minor in temporary custody with the Morrison family until further investigations can be completed. That's when everything changed. Zara, who had been sitting quietly beside David, suddenly stood up. Her small voice carried clearly through the courtroom as she pointed directly at David and said, "He is my father." The courtroom fell silent. David felt his face go pale. "Your Honor, I've never seen this child before this week." I have no idea why she would say that, but Zara wasn't finished. She looked directly at the judge with those piercing violet eyes and continued, "He has the same heart music as my real father, kind and sad and wanting to protect people. He is family now." Judge Thompson looked confused and slightly annoyed. "Young lady, you can't just choose your family in a court of law. In my family's law, I can." Zara said with surprising confidence for an 8-year-old. When someone shows true care without wanting anything back, they become family. It is our oldest rule. David knelt down beside her. Zara, sweetie, I care about you, but I'm just your lawyer. I can't be your father. The nice Morrison family will take good care of you. Zara's eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head. Firmly, please don't send me away. I've been alone so long. You make the scared feelings go away. David felt his heart breaking. He looked up at Judge Thompson, who seemed as bewildered as everyone else in the room. The court reporter had stopped typing. Even the bailiffs were staring. That's when David noticed them. The well-dressed strangers he'd been seeing all week were now standing at the back of the courtroom. A woman with the same violet eyes as Zara stepped forward, moving with elegant purpose. Your Honor, the woman said in a voice that commanded attention. If I may interrupt these proceedings. Judge Thompson frowned. Ma'am, this is a closed hearing. You need to. I am Vera Chen, the child's legal guardian under international treaty. We've been searching for her since she was lost several days ago. David felt Zara grab his hand tightly. Her small fingers were trembling. She's family too. Zara whispered, but different family, complicated family. Vera approached the bench with documents that looked official but unlike anything David had seen before. The paper seemed to shimmer slightly, and the writing appeared to shift languages as he watched. These documents establish our legal right to custody, Vera said smoothly. However, we respect the child's wishes. If she has chosen this man as her protector, then by our law, he becomes part of our family as well. David's mind was spinning. Wait, what? I don't understand what's happening here. Judge Thompson examined the documents with growing confusion. These appeared to be legitimate, but I've never seen anything like them. What exactly is this international treaty you're referring to? A very old agreement, Your Honor, one that supersedes local custody laws in cases involving our people. Vera's smile was polite but somehow final. We'll be taking both the child and Mr. Rodriguez with us now. Now hold on, David said, standing up quickly. Nobody's taking me anywhere. I have a job, a life, responsibilities. Zara tugged on his jacket. Please don't fight them. They're not bad, just protective. Very, very protective. David looked down at her, then at Vera, then at the other strangers now positioned at every exit. Something in their posture suggested this wasn't really a request. As the hearing ended in confusion and Judge Thompson promised to review the unusual documentation, David found himself walking out of the courthouse with Zara's small hand in his, and Vera beside them. I don't understand what's happening, David said as they approached the parking area. You will, Vera replied calmly. Family is complicated, Mr. Rodriguez, but once you're part of it, you're never alone again. 3 black SUVs were waiting in the parking lot, engines running. The sight sent a chill down David's spine, but Zara seemed oddly calm. Don't be scared, she said, looking up at him with those incredible violet eyes. I chose you because you have a good heart. Now my family will see that too. As they approached the vehicles, Vera placed a gentle but firm hand on David's shoulder. Thank you for protecting our princess. Mr. Rodriguez, now you're family, and family takes care of family. David realized his quiet life as a public defender had just ended forever. But looking down at Zara's trusting face, he wasn't sure that was entirely a bad thing. For the first time in years, someone needed him, really needed him. He just had no idea what he was getting himself into. The ride in the black SUV felt like the longest 20 minutes of David's life. Zara sat between him and Vera, her small hand still gripping his tightly. Through the tinted windows, he watched Chicago's familiar streets give way to an upscale neighborhood he'd never seen before. Where exactly are we going? David asked, trying to keep his voice calm for Zara's sake. Home, Vera replied simply. Our family home. You'll understand everything soon. The mansion they pulled up to looked like something from a movie. It was huge, with perfectly manicured gardens and a circular driveway that could fit a dozen cars. David counted at least 15 vehicles parked around the property, all expensive looking. This is where you live? David asked Zara. She nodded, but her expression was sad. I lived here before the bad things happened, but it never felt like home until now. As they walked through the front doors, David's jaw dropped. The inside was even more impressive than the outside. Crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings, and artwork that looked like it belonged in museums covered the walls. But what struck him most was how many people were there. Men and women in business suits moved through the halls with purpose. Some were clearly guards, standing at strategic positions throughout the house. Others looked like they were handling business, carrying folders and talking quietly into phones. All of them had the same confident, almost predatory grace that Vera possessed. "Welcome to the Vorthik family compound," Vera said, leading them into a large sitting room. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." David settled into a leather chair that probably cost more than his monthly salary. Zara climbed up beside him, curling against his side like she'd done it 1,000 times before. "Okay," David said. "I think it's time someone explained what's really going on here. Who are you people, and why does everyone keep talking about family like it's some kind of binding contract?" Vera poured tea from an elegant service, her movements graceful and deliberate. "Mr. Rodriguez, what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to listen with an open mind, for Zara's sake." She handed him a cup, and David noticed the tea had a slight shimmer to it, like there were tiny stars floating in the liquid. "We are not from this world, Mr. Rodriguez. My family, the Vorthik, came to Earth nearly 100 years ago as refugees from a dying planet." David nearly choked on his tea. "Excuse me, did you just say you're aliens? That's such an ugly word," Zara said softly. "We prefer people from far away. We've been here so long, Earth feels like home now." Vera nodded approvingly at Zara's words. "Over the decades, we've built lives here, businesses, relationships, a place in human society. We've learned to blend in, to contribute. Some of our people run hospitals. Others create technology that helps humanity advance. We've always believed in cooperation rather than conquest. But you operate like—" David struggled to find the right words, "like some kind of organized crime family." "We operate like a family that protects its own," Vera corrected firmly. "In our original world, family bonds were sacred, binding. When someone becomes family, whether by blood or by choice, we are responsible for their safety and well-being forever. It's not just culture, Mr. Rodriguez. It's who we are." David looked down at Zara, who was listening intently. "And Zara's what? Some kind of princess?" "She is the heir to our family's leadership," Vera explained. "Her parents were my brother and sister-in-law. They were killed 3 weeks ago by enemies who want to destroy our way of life here on Earth." David felt Zara's small body tense against him. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he said gently, stroking her hair. "I can't imagine how scary that must have been." "They hid me," Zara whispered. "Mama put me in the escape pod and said to find someone with a good heart. Someone who would protect me not because they had to, but because they wanted to." The escape pod crashed near downtown. Vera continued. "We've been searching for her ever since. But Zara's special, even among our people. She has abilities that only appear in direct royal bloodlines: telepathy, healing, precognition. In the wrong hands, these gifts could be used to hurt many people." David thought about all the strange things he'd witnessed. Zara knowing things she shouldn't know, the bailiff's miraculous recovery, the way she seemed to read people's emotions. "So when she called me her father in court, she was invoking an ancient law," Vera said. "When a royal heir claims someone as family, that bond becomes sacred and unbreakable. You are now officially part of the Vorthik clan, Mr. Rodriguez, with all the protections and responsibilities that entails." "Wait, hold on," David said, feeling panic rising in his chest. "I never agreed to this. I was just doing my job, helping a lost kid. I can't just become part of some alien family. I have my own life." Vera's expression grew serious. "I'm afraid it's not that simple. Our enemies know Zara claimed you. They will see you as a way to get to her. If we let you go back to your normal life, you'd be in constant danger. And through you, so would she." "What enemies?" David asked. though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Other groups from our world who believe Earth should be conquered, not shared, Vera explained. They call themselves the Corvani. They're military-minded, aggressive. They see our peaceful integration as weakness. Zara looked up at David with those violet eyes. I'm sorry I got you into danger, but I was so scared and alone, and you were the first person who looked at me like I mattered. David's heart melted. He couldn't be angry at this little girl who lost everything. Hey, it's okay. You do matter. More than you know. There's something else, Vera said carefully. Our family's business operations might seem questionable to outsiders, but we have good reasons for everything we do. We protect other refugee families who've made Earth their home. We fund research into clean energy and medical advances. Sometimes we have to deal with humans who prey on our people or threaten our secrecy. Deal with them how? David asked, though he suspected he knew. We convince them to change their behavior. Vera said diplomatically, usually through financial incentives or legal pressure. We prefer cooperation to conflict. A man in an expensive suit approached their group. Ma'am, we have a situation. The Chen family is requesting our help again. Someone's been threatening their teenage daughter, trying to force her to reveal information about our community. Vera nodded. Handle it quietly. Make sure the girl is safe. And convince the troublemaker to find a new hobby. David watched this exchange with growing unease. These people clearly had power and weren't afraid to use it. But he could see the genuine care in Vera's eyes. When she talked about protecting their community, Mr. Rodriguez, Vera said, turning back to him, I know this is overwhelming, but you have a choice to make. You can embrace your new role as Zara's guardian and protector, learn our ways, and help us keep our people safe, or what? David asked. Or we relocate you somewhere safe but isolated, where you can live comfortably but away from everyone you've ever known, Vera said sadly. We can't risk our community's safety, but we also can't let harm come to family. David looked around the room at all these people who seemed to belong to something bigger than themselves. His own life suddenly felt small and empty in comparison. He'd been going through the motions for years, defending clients who barely remembered his name. Going home to an empty apartment every night. What would I do here? He asked quietly. Whatever you're good at, Vera smiled. We can always use someone with legal expertise. Many of our business dealings require careful navigation of human laws. You could help ensure we operate within proper boundaries while still protecting our people. Zara squeezed his hand. You don't have to decide right now, but please don't leave me. Not yet. David looked down at this incredible little girl, who'd somehow chosen him out of everyone in the world, for the first time in years. Someone actually needed him, not just as a lawyer, but as a person. Okay, he said finally, I'll stay, at least, until I figure all this out. Vera's smile was warm and genuine. Welcome to the family. David Rodriguez, I have a feeling you're going to fit in better than you think. As if summoned by her words, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the mansion. Red lights flashed in the hallways, and David could hear people shouting orders. What's happening? He asked, instinctively pulling Zara closer. Vera's expression had gone cold and dangerous. The Corvani have found us. The alarms were deafening. David had never heard anything like them before. A sound that seemed to vibrate through his bones and make his teeth ache. Zara pressed her hands to her ears, her face scrunched up in pain. What do we do? David shouted. Over the noise. Vera was already moving, pressing buttons on what looked like a normal wall panel. Suddenly, the panel slid away to reveal an arsenal of weapons that definitely weren't from Earth. They glowed with soft blue light and hummed with energy. The safe room is 2 floors down, Vera called out, grabbing one of the strange weapons. Take Zara and go, now. I'm not leaving you, Zara said firmly, standing up despite David's attempts to keep her seated. Princess, this isn't a discussion, Vera replied, but her voice was gentle even in the chaos. David, there's a hidden elevator behind the bookshelf. Press the golden book, 3rd shelf from the top. David found the book and pressed it. The entire bookshelf swung inward, revealing a small elevator. But as he tried to guide Zara toward it, She planted her feet and refused to move. "No," she said with surprising authority. "For an 8-year-old, if our family is fighting, I fight too. That's what Papa would have done." Through the mansion's large windows, David could see dark shapes moving across the lawn. They moved wrong somehow, too fast and too fluid to be entirely human. Some carried weapons that cast eerie purple light, while others seemed to shimmer in and out of visibility. "Those are the Corvani?" David asked. "The advanced scouts." Vera confirmed grimly. "They're testing our defenses. The real attack will come in waves." A Vorthok fighter ran up to them, breathing hard. "Ma'am, they've surrounded the compound. At least 30 fighters, maybe more. They have energy disruptors and phase shields." David had no idea what any of that meant, but it sounded bad. "Vera, I don't know how to fight aliens with space weapons. I'm just a lawyer." "Sometimes being a lawyer is exactly what we need," Vera said, handing him one of the glowing weapons. "This is a neural disruptor. Point and think stop really hard. It will knock them unconscious without permanent harm." The weapon felt warm in David's hands, almost like it was alive when he gripped it properly. Information seemed to flow directly into his mind about how to use it. It was the strangest sensation he'd ever experienced. "How is it doing that?" he asked. "Vorthok technology responds to neural patterns," Zara explained, sounding much older than her years. "It reads your intentions and helps you succeed. Papa said it was because our ancestors believed weapons should only work for people with good hearts." An explosion rocked the mansion, and the lights flickered through the windows. David could see Vorthok defenders taking positions around the property. They moved with military precision, but there was something desperate about their formation. "We're outnumbered," David observed. "We usually are," Vera said calmly, "but we're fighting for our home. That makes us dangerous." Another fighter approached. "Ma'am, they're demanding we surrender the heir. They say they'll leave the rest of us alone if we hand over the princess." Vera's expression turned ice cold. "Tell them they can have her over." "Our dead bodies already did, ma'am." That's when they started shooting. David felt a strange calm settling over him. Maybe it was the alien weapon responding to his thoughts. Or maybe it was just seeing Zara's brave face looking up at him. But suddenly, his legal training kicked in. "Wait," he said. "Vera, what exactly do the Corvani want? I mean, the real goal, not just Zara. They want to expose our presence on Earth." Vera explained, "Force a war between humans and all alien refugees. They believe conflict will make both species stronger. But that would destroy everything you've built here," David said. "All the hospitals, the research, the families who've made Earth their home. Exactly. They see our integration as weakness. They want to rule through fear instead of cooperation." David's mind was racing. What if we could prove that's not what's best for either species? What if we could demonstrate that cooperation is actually stronger than conquest? Another explosion, closer this time. Windows rattled, and David could hear the sound of energy. Weapons firing outside. The Corvani were getting closer. "David, this isn't a courtroom," Vera said gently. "You can't negotiate with the Corvani. They only understand strength." "Maybe not," Zara said quietly. "But David's right about something. They want me because they think I'll help them find all our hidden families. But what if I could show them something else instead?" "What do you mean, sweetheart?" David asked. Zara's violet eyes were glowing slightly, a sign that her abilities were activating. "I can share feelings, not just read them. What if I could show them what it feels like to be part of a real family? What we've built here?" "Absolutely not," Vera said firmly. "Using your powers like that, at your age, could seriously hurt you. And the Corvani might be able to trace the mental connection back to you. But Aunt Vera, if they experience what we experience, they might understand. They might see that love makes us stronger, not weaker." David knelt down to Zara's level. "Princess, that's incredibly brave. But it's also incredibly dangerous. We need to keep you safe first." "I've been safe my whole life," Zara said with frustration. "Safe while other families got hurt. Safe while Papa and Mama died protecting me. I don't want to be safe anymore. I want to help. The main door exploded inward, and David saw his first Corvani warrior. They looked mostly human, but taller and more muscular. With silver-white hair and eyes like chips of ice, their armor seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Surrender the air. The lead Corvani called out in accented English. No one else needs to be harmed. Vera stepped forward, her own weapon charged and ready. You know our answer to that. Then you choose extinction over wisdom, the Corvani replied sadly. We could have been allies. That's when David realized something important. The Corvani commander sounded genuinely sad. Not angry, like he didn't want to be doing this. Wait, David called out, stepping forward despite Vera's sharp intake of breath. You said allies. What did you mean by that? The Corvani commander studied him with those cold eyes. You are the human the air claimed. Interesting. You do not seem to understand the situation. Then explain it to me, David said, his lawyer instincts taking over. What do you really want here? We want our people to be strong. The commander replied. Your Vorthik hide among humans like prey animals. They make themselves weak with sentiment and compromise. We would make both species stronger through honest conflict. But you're assuming conflict is the only way to grow stronger, David said. What if cooperation could make everyone stronger? What if the Vorthik way actually produces better results? The commander laughed. But it wasn't a cruel sound. Human lawyer, you speak of things you do not understand. Cooperation is a luxury for the weak. Zara stepped out from behind David. Then let me show you what our cooperation has accomplished. Before anyone could stop her, she reached out with her mind toward the Corvani commander. David felt the wave of emotion and memory wash over the room like a gentle tide. Suddenly, everyone could feel what Zara felt when she looked at the Vorthik family. The deep satisfaction of belonging somewhere. The strength that came from knowing others would sacrifice for you, and you for them. The pride in building something beautiful together instead of just taking what others had built. But more than that, they could feel the love, not just romantic love, but the love of chosen family, of people who decided to care for each other not because they had to, but because they wanted to. It was warm and bright and more powerful than any weapon. The Corvani commander staggered backward, his ice blue eyes wide with shock. For a moment, his expression softened completely. This is impossible, he whispered. Such bonds should make you vulnerable, not strong. They make us stronger because we fight for each other, not just ourselves, Zara said softly, and we fight smarter because we care about protecting what we've built, not just destroying what others have. The commander looked around the room, taking in the Vorthik defenders who were clearly willing to die for their family, and David, a human who was ready to fight alien warriors for a little girl. He'd known less than a week. I need to think about this, the commander said finally. We will withdraw for now, but this conversation is not over. As the Corvani forces pulled back, David collapsed into a chair, his hands shaking. Did that actually work? For now, Vera said, but she was smiling. You bought us time. Both of you. And maybe, just maybe, you planted a seed of doubt in there. Minds? Zara climbed up into David's lap, exhausted from using her abilities. Did I do okay? Papa David. David's heart nearly stopped. She called him Papa. Not just father, but Papa. The same word she'd used for her birth father. You did more than okay. Princess, he said, holding her close. You might have just saved both our species. As he sat there holding this extraordinary little girl, David realized his old life truly was over. But looking around at the Vorthik family, all of them ready to die for each other, he thought maybe his new life might be the adventure he'd never known he wanted. 3 weeks had passed since the Corvani attack, and David was starting to feel like he might actually belong in this strange new world. He'd learned to use Vorthik technology, helped resolve disputes between family members, and even assisted with some of their legitimate business operations. But most importantly, his bond with Zara had grown stronger every day. She was teaching him basic telepathic communication, which mostly involved a lot of headaches and frustrated sighs from both of them. Still, there were moments when he could feel her emotions clearly, and she could sense his thoughts. It was like having a daughter who could tell when he was worried before he even realized it himself. "You're thinking about your old life again," Sarah said one morning over breakfast. She was getting better at reading his moods without even trying. "Sometimes," David admitted. "I wonder what happened to my cases, my apartment, my few friends." "Do you miss it?" she asked. And David could hear the worry in her voice. "I miss the simplicity," he said honestly. "But I don't miss being alone." That afternoon, everything changed again. David was in the mansion's library, reviewing contracts for one of the family's medical research companies, when Vera burst through the doors with an expression he'd never seen before. Pure panic. "David, we have a problem," she said, her usual calm completely gone. "A big one." "What's wrong?" David asked, immediately alert. "Your former colleague, Lisa Chen, has been investigating your disappearance. She's gotten too close to discovering our existence." David felt his stomach drop. Lisa had been his closest friend at the public defender's office, one of the few people who actually seemed to care about him as a person. They'd even dated briefly a few years ago, though they decided they were better as friends. "How close is too close?" David asked. Vera placed a tablet on the desk showing surveillance photos. Lisa was photographed outside the courthouse, talking to witnesses from Zara's custody hearing. She was also shown near the crash site where Zara's escape pod had landed, and worst of all, she was photographed across the street from the Vorthik compound. "She's been asking questions about alien activity in the city," Vera said grimly. "She has photos of our people, license plate numbers of our vehicles, and she's been tracking financial records of our front companies." David's mind was racing. Lisa's thorough, but she's not reckless. If she's investigating this hard, it means she's genuinely worried about me. "That's what makes this so dangerous," Vera replied. "She cares about you, which means she won't give up easily. And if she exposes us—" "What are you saying, Vera?" Vera's expression was pained. "The family council met this morning. They've decided Lisa Chen poses to greater risk to our community's safety. She needs to be handled." David felt the blood drain from his face. "Handled how?" "Permanently," Vera said quietly. "No." The word came out harder than David intended. "Absolutely not. We're not hurting Lisa." "David, you don't understand the stakes," Vera said. "We have over 300 families depending on our secrecy for their safety. If humans discover our presence before we're ready to reveal ourselves properly, it could start a panic that gets innocent people killed. Then we convince her to stop investigating," David said. "Let me talk to her. It's dangerous. She might try to turn you against us, or worse. She might be working with government agencies that want to capture our people for experiments." David stood up so quickly his chair fell over. "Lisa isn't some government spy. She's a good person who's worried about her friend. There has to be another way." Vera looked genuinely sorry. "The decision has been made, David. I'm telling you this as a courtesy, because you're family, but also as a warning. Don't try to interfere." David felt something cold settle in his chest. "And if I do interfere, then you'll be putting Zara at risk," Vera said sadly. "And we can't allow that." David spent the rest of the day pacing his room, trying to figure out what to do. He couldn't let them hurt Lisa, but he also couldn't abandon Zara. The little girl had been through enough loss already. That evening, Zara found him sitting on his balcony, staring out at the city lights. "You're scared," she said, climbing up onto his lap. "Yeah, princess, I am." "Is it about the lady who's looking for you?" David shouldn't have been surprised that Zara knew. The family didn't keep many secrets from her, and her abilities meant she could sense the tension in the house. "Her name is Lisa," David said. "She was my friend. She's just worried about me. And Vera thinks she might hurt our family." Zara said softly. "Lisa wouldn't hurt anyone. She's one of the good guys, like you." Zara was quiet for a long moment. "What if you could talk to her, explain things?" "Vera thinks it's dangerous." "But what if I went with you?" Zara asked. "I could tell if she was lying or if she really just wanted to help." "My abilities are getting stronger." David considered this. Zara's telepathic abilities had indeed grown stronger over the past few weeks. She could now sense people's true intentions quite clearly, and her presence tended to make people more honest and open. It would be incredibly risky. David said, "Everything worthwhile is risky." Zara replied, sounding far too wise for 8 years old. The next morning, David made his decision. He would meet with Lisa, with Zara's help, and try to convince her to stop her investigation. If it worked, Lisa would be safe. If it didn't, well, he'd deal with that when it happened. David sent Lisa a text from a burner phone, coffee shop, on 5th Street, to PM, "Come alone. I'm safe but need to explain everything." Lisa was already waiting when David and Zara arrived at the small cafe. She looked tired and worried, with dark circles under her eyes that suggested she hadn't been sleeping well. "David," Lisa stood up so quickly she nearly knocked over her chair. "Thank God you're okay. I've been so worried. Everyone at the office thinks you just disappeared." "And who is this?" "This is Zara," David said carefully, "the little girl I was representing." "It's complicated." Lisa knelt down to Zara's level. "Hi, sweetheart. I'm Lisa, David's friend." Zara studied Lisa with those violet eyes, and David could feel her using her abilities to read Lisa's emotions and intentions. After a moment, Zara smiled. "She really does care about you," Zara said to David. "Her worry feelings are very strong, but no angry feelings, no wanting to hurt feelings." Lisa looked confused. "She's very perceptive for her age, Lisa," David said, sitting down across from her. "What I'm about to tell you is going to sound impossible, but I need you to listen to everything before you react, okay?" Over the next hour, David explained everything. Zara's true identity, the Vorthik family, their refugee status, their integration into human society. Lisa listened with growing amazement, occasionally asking questions but never seeming to doubt his sanity. "So you're telling me," Lisa said, "finally, that aliens have been living among us for a century, running legitimate businesses and helping humanity advance, and you've become the adoptive father of their princess?" "That's the short version, yes." Lisa looked at Zara, who had been quietly coloring in a children's book throughout the conversation. "And you're really from another planet?" Zara looked up and smiled. "Technically, I was born here on Earth, but my people came from the stars, yes, to demonstrate." Zara gently touched Lisa's hand. Lisa gasped as her chronic headaches, which she'd suffered from 4 years, completely disappeared. "How did you?" "It's one of my gifts," Zara said simply. "I can feel when people hurt and sometimes help fix it." Lisa sat back in her chair, processing everything. "This is incredible. And you're telling me there are hundreds of families like yours?" "Thousands all over the world," David confirmed. "They're not invaders or conquerors. They're refugees who've made Earth their home and want to contribute to it." "But why all the secrecy? Why not reveal yourselves officially?" "Because humans aren't ready yet," Zara said sadly. "Some humans, like you and Papa David, would understand. But others would be scared and try to hurt us. And that would make the bad aliens, the Corvani, think they were right about needing to fight instead of cooperate." Lisa was quiet for a long time, thinking. David could see her analytical mind working through all the implications. "What do you need from me?" she asked finally. "I need you to stop investigating," David said. "The family is worried that exposure could put innocent people in danger. And if I don't stop," David's voice grew heavy, "they'll make sure you can't continue permanently." Lisa's eyes widened. "They kill me. They convince themselves it was necessary to protect their community," David said. "I don't think they want to. But they're scared, and scared people make desperate choices." Lisa looked at Zara, who was watching the conversation with those impossibly wise eyes. "What do you think I should do, sweetheart?" Zara considered this seriously. "I think you should help us find a way for humans and my people to be friends openly, but safely, so no one gets hurt on either side." David felt a surge of hope. "Lisa, what if instead of exposing the Vorthik, you help them prepare for eventual disclosure? Use your legal skills to help figure out how to do it right." Lisa smiled for the first time since David had disappeared. "You mean join your alien family? Would you consider it?" But before Lisa could answer, The cafe's windows exploded inward. Armed figures in black tactical gear stormed through the opening, pointing strange weapons at their table. Lisa Chen, the team leader, called out, "You're coming with us. You've—" The cafe erupted into chaos. David's first instinct was to protect Zara, pulling her behind an overturned table as the tactical team spread out around them. These weren't ordinary police officers. Their equipment was too advanced, their movements too coordinated. "Government task force," Lisa whispered, her face pale with fear. "I think I know who they are." "You know them?" David asked, keeping Zara pressed close to his side. "I've been getting calls," Lisa admitted. "Someone claiming to be from a federal agency, asking about my investigation into your disappearance. I thought they were fake." The team leader, a stern woman in her 40s, approached their hiding spot with her weapon lowered but ready. "Ms. Chen, I'm Agent Rebecca Torres with the Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. You need to come with us immediately. There's a department of what now?" David called out. "Mr. Rodriguez," Agent Torres said, clearly recognizing him. "You've been classified as a missing person under potential alien influence. We're here to rescue you." Zara peeked over the edge of the table, her violet eyes wide with fear. "Papa David, I don't like their feelings. They're scared, but also excited, like they want to catch something." Agent Torres spotted Zara, and her expression changed completely. "Dear God, it's true, Ms. Chen. You've led us directly to an extraterrestrial entity. She's just a little girl," Lisa said firmly, standing up despite David's attempts to keep her hidden. "Whatever you think is happening here, you're wrong, ma'am. Please step away from the alien. We don't know what kind of influence it might have over you." David felt anger flare in his chest. "Her name is Zara, not it, and she's not influencing anyone. She's scared and confused, just like any 8-year-old would be. Mr. Rodriguez, our intelligence suggests you've been compromised by an alien crime organization," Agent Torres said. "We're here to help you, but you need to trust us." "Trust you?" David stood up, keeping Zara behind him. "You just smashed through a window with military weapons to kidnap a child. How exactly does that help anyone?" Agent Torres motioned to her team, and they began advancing slowly. "The entity is extremely valuable for research purposes. If we can understand its abilities, we might be able to develop defenses against other hostile alien species." "Research?" David felt something cold and protective settle in his chest. "You want to experiment on her. We want to study her capabilities. In a controlled environment," Agent Torres corrected, "for the safety of humanity." That's when Zara did something unexpected. She stepped out from behind David, looking directly at Agent Torres with those remarkable violet eyes. "You're afraid," Zara said softly. "You think my people want to hurt humans. But we don't. We just want to belong somewhere." Agent Torres hesitated, clearly affected by Zara's presence. "How do we know that? How do we know any alien species can be trusted?" "Because we've been here for almost 100 years, Zara replied. "We've helped build hospitals, create medicines, develop clean energy. We could have conquered Earth any time we wanted, but we chose to be friends instead. That's not what our intelligence reports suggest," Agent Torres said, but her voice was less certain now. David realized something important was happening. Zara wasn't just talking to Agent Torres. She was using her empathic abilities to let the agent feel what she felt. The love for her adopted human father, the grief for her lost parents, the hope for a future where humans and aliens could live together openly. "I can show you," Zara said gently. "I can show you what my family really does." Agent Torres lowered her weapon slightly. "What do you mean?" "Touch my hand," Zara said, extending her small hand toward the agent. "I can share memories. You'll see the truth for yourself, Zara." "No," David said quickly. "Using your abilities that much could hurt you? Papa David, this is the only way," Zara said with that wisdom that always surprised him. "She needs to understand, or more people will get hurt." After a moment of hesitation, Agent Torres reached out and took Zara's hand. What happened next was remarkable. David could feel the wave of shared emotion and memory washing over everyone in the cafe. Agent Torres gasped as she experienced the Vorthik family's genuine care for each other. Their legitimate businesses that helped human society. Their protection of other refugee families who had nowhere else to go. She saw Vera's sadness when she had to make hard decisions to protect her people. She felt David's transformation from a lonely, bitter man into someone who finally belonged somewhere. Most importantly, she experienced Zara's pure love for her new father and her dream of a world where humans and aliens could be friends openly. "This is impossible," Agent Torres whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Our reports said you were dangerous criminals. Someone wanted you to think that," Lisa said, her legal mind putting pieces together. "Agent Torres, who gave you those intelligence reports?" The reports came from another alien faction, Agent Torres said slowly, realization dawning on her face. "They claim to be allies, wanting to help us defend against hostile aliens, the Corvani." David said grimly, "They're using your government to eliminate the Vorthik because they can't do it themselves." Agent Torres was struggling to process everything she'd experienced through Zara's memories. "If what I've seen is true, then we've been manipulated into targeting the wrong people." "Not just manipulated," David said. "You've been turned into weapons against people who could have been your allies." That's when the real chaos began. Black SUV screeched to a halt outside the cafe, and David recognized the elegant figure of Vera stepping out, followed by a dozen Vorthik fighters at the same time. More government vehicles arrived from the opposite direction, and sleek silver craft descended from the sky. David realized with growing horror that all three factions were converging on their location Corvani ships. Zara whispered, pointing at the silver craft. "They followed the government here." Agent Torres was barking orders into a radio. "All units stand down. Repeat. All units stand down. We have a friendly contact situation." But it was too late. The Corvani had clearly decided this was their chance to eliminate both the Vorthik princess and the humans who now knew too much about alien presence on Earth. Energy weapons began firing from the Corvani ships, forcing everyone in the cafe to take cover again. Vera and her team returned fire with their own advanced weapons, while Agent Torres' people found themselves caught in the middle. "We need to get out of here," David shouted over the sound of the battle. "Where can we go?" Lisa asked. "We're surrounded." That's when David realized something. Throughout this entire experience, from the moment Zara had first called him father in that courtroom, he'd been learning to think differently, not just as an individual trying to survive, but as part of something bigger. "We don't run," David said firmly. "We end this." He looked at Agent Torres, who was still reeling from her shared experience with Zara. "Agent Torres, how many people in your department know about the Corvani intelligence reports?" "Most of the senior staff," she replied. "And how many of them have actually met a Vorthik face-to-face?" "None," Torres said. Understanding beginning to dawn in her eyes, David turned to Zara. "Princess, how many people can you share your memories with at once?" "I don't know," Zara said. "I've never tried more than one person before." "What if you had help?" David asked. "What if your whole family helped you?" Vera had made her way to their position during a lull in the fighting. "David, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time to stop hiding," David said. "Zara, can you contact every Vorthik in the city? Tell them to come here?" "That would expose our entire community," Vera protested. "The community is already exposed." David pointed out, "The Corvani made sure of that when they fed false information to the government. We can either let them control the narrative, or we can tell our own story." Zara closed her eyes, and David could feel her mental call going out across the city. Within minutes, Vorthik families began arriving. Not just fighters, but doctors, teachers, engineers, small business owners, ordinary people who happened to be from another world. "Agent Torres," David said, "call your headquarters. Tell them to send every senior staff member who wants to understand the truth about alien presence on Earth. They'll think I've lost my mind," Torres said. "Then show them this," David replied, gesturing to the battle still raging outside. "Show them what happens when fear and lies control our decisions." As more humans and Vorthik arrived at the scene, something remarkable began to happen. "Zara, with the help of dozens of her people, began sharing the truth with everyone present. Not just the humans, but the Corvani fighters as well, for the first time. The Corvani experienced what it felt like to be part of a community built on cooperation. Rather than conquest, they felt the strength that came from protecting others instead of just dominating them, one by one. The Corvani stopped fighting. Their commander, the same one who had attacked the mansion weeks earlier, landed his ship and approached the growing crowd. "This is not what we expected to find," he said. His ice-blue eyes filled with confusion and something that might have been wonder. "It's what we've been trying to show you all along," Vera replied. "Strength doesn't come from fear. It comes from love." 6 months later, David sat in a very different kind of courtroom. This one had been specially designed to accommodate both human and alien legal